Shalom Akim. I'm going to give all praises and glory to Yahweh Bashim, Yahushai Bashim, Rakakadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of GMS who teach and rule well. And salutation to all the Akim in all four corners of earth who's pushing his truth and sincerity. Shalom Akim. I want to get into this little video I just stumbled upon on RT. It says, next stop, the apocalypse. The bumbling Biden administration's claim to fame may be jump-starting World War III. And how ironic, if you've been paying attention to the news of late, America has Russia and Ukraine have kicked back up their antics. A solid 2 to 3 years ago, they had a full out blown skirmish going on over there on the borders of Ukraine, going to Russia, whatever. And those different towns along those borders were getting shelled. I was watching Vice heavy around that time, and it was just showing how the people were trying to survive. With the missiles going over their head, bullets flying in and out of their living room and rooms and stuff. People living in half houses and stuff because half their house had got blown off. From shells or mortars coming in. These are the things that are going down over there right now as we speak. It's escalated back up. You also had people along these different towns, somewhere for Russia and somewhere for Ukraine. So that right there started up a divide. And if you know anything about the history of the USSR, at one point this was a major power block player. It still is a major power, but it was huge back in the 80s. 88, 89 was the fall of USSR. And when Putin came to power, they kicked Gorbachev out of there because Gorbachev was he sold half of he was with the Western powers. So once the collapse of the USSR happened, that's when NATO came on in and started putting their military rockets and stuff, aiming them straight towards Russia. So basically all this did was a power vacuum, you could say, because it allowed these different countries to pop up and gave them puppet presidents and stuff like that, whether they were for Russia or for the Western powers, which would be NATO, But so this is just one thing that's going on. You also have over in what is that, Taiwan? America is showing its power over there by helping those guys out because they're fed up with China's rule and stuff like that. So you have different America's being spread out. The military powers are being spread out right now. This is the same thing that happened to Rome back in the day. But let me bring out this article and bring out some verses. It says, since Biden's a sumptuous rise to power, the world has become littered with hotspots from Ukraine to China, where a major conflict could erupt at any time. And I just spoke about that. We also have over in Afghanistan, which is what is that war been going on for damn near 20 years now, and that's what you call a proxy war. Some countries, when they go to war, it's rare that a country just goes straight up to war with another country. You have to have different countries involved in it, and the more countries, that becomes a world war. World War I had a bunch of different countries in it. It wasn't just Russia versus the Germans or the Germans versus America. You had a slew of different countries. Same with World War II. World wars are combined countries. They get their homies to join in with them and then fight. And then you have something called proxy wars. A proxy war is we go to a country, one side, for instance, Russia would take one side and America would take the other side, and we'll fund these different groups, and we'll have them go to war. That's called a proxy war. We don't use American troops. We use their people. We'll go over there and advise them. We'll go over there and fund them with weapons and stuff like that, but we won't fight the war for them, so to speak. They'll do now. What they will do is covert missions where they go undercover. They're sending the SNOPs or sending your Navy SEALs. You go have them do some espionage, counter-espionage, blow something up, snipe out a guy or two. That'll happen. But basically that's just all saying. Adding on to how America, the demise of America, because you have your hand, you have the pot on too many irons. I said that wrong. You have your hand in too many in too many things, basically. So he says, is the U.S. deep state desperate to make up for 4 warless years? And that right there is a lie, because I just gave you example of proxy wars. So America's always been at war. And there's been no time from the 80s, to the 70s. 70s, you just got out of Vietnam. Uh, End of the 70s, coming into the 80s. Beginning of the 80s, you were down in Central America with the Contras and stuff like that. I remember the Oliver North trials. I remember how he was lying, and Reagan was getting up there lying, and they were saying, where was this money coming from? Where's all this money coming from? I remember when the drug epidemic hit. These are the different things that helped fund the different wars they was fighting, as well as it was one hand wash the other hand type situation. Going back to this lie they just said, making up for 4 warless years. America has never been warless. And like I said, we've been in Afghanistan for 20 plus years, over there, whether it be Afghanistan, Iraq, just or Kuwait. We've been over that way, in the Middle East, period. Coincidence or other words, the world feels like a much more dangerous place since Joe Biden formally entered the White House on January 20th. Now that the "Make America Great Again" bumper sticker has been removed from the U.S. from the U.S. juggernaut, early indicators point to a global joyride, riding with dangerous standoffs and even full-blown hostilities that could spark the mother of all conglomerates. One of the most dangerous stops along the highway to possible oblivion is playing out right now on Russia's doorstep. The average consumer of Western media junk food, the simmering standoff between Ukraine and Russia, has been reduced to snack-sized bites, properly be sold to unsuspecting customers as a Russian aggression. Toss away the greasy bag, however, and the more disconcerting shopper will discover that Moscow has, in fact, steadily fast supported the conditions for peace in Donbass, where a civil war has been raging for several years between pro-Russian forces in Kiev. Meanwhile, it is Ukraine President Zelensky who has abandoned the Minsk Protocol, the 2014 peace treaty, while signing a decree on March 24th that practically places Ukraine on a war footing with Russia. And yeah, it got ugly. Like I said, it was in 2014, and it got ugly, man. Those people who were living in them towns where those bombings was happening, man, it was like I said, I was watching it on Vice, and people were getting lit up. The animals were getting it, people were getting it. It was one big mess, man. I mean, it was because Vice was there on the ground, man. They had cameras. You could see people just getting hit by snipers. You could see the mortar rounds going off. It was real war on camera, real war on TV, But yeah. So America, they sit there over there, trying to keep the peace, but they're over there meddling. We already know that from, like I say, from the 2014 experience that happened. America was meddling with the Civil War over there. They were pushing for Ukraine. They were antagonizing the Russians as well as the Ukraine. So they were playing both sides, with the politics, man. They were playing both sides with politics. So that's what they do, man. And he says, there's some more I'm going to read. Let me read out the verse. He says, this is Psalms 55 and 20. I'm going to start. He had put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He had broken his covenant. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords, man. Because like I said, man, he went over there, and America, I'm speaking about, they went over there, played the two-faced role. They helped Ukraine and then talk good to Russia. But Russia knows what's going on, and it's vice versa, man. They go over there as though they're trying to help out, and it's an interest. They do that for an interest. It's the main interest. America's interest is to disrupt Russia at all costs. Ukraine was thinking they're coming over there just to help them, with their own, political turmoil that's going on. But America's interest is more financial capital gain, more capital gain, and they use the sword to take over and get what they want, man. He says, the comment reflects how easily these extreme dangers come. A global standoff could spiral out of control. Is the world truly a safer place with the U.S., the self-proclaimed indispensable nation, meddling in the affairs of foreign states like a super cop? And is this what we said? This goes back to the days of Rome too, as well, man. You know, Rome was studying wars and invading different countries and lands, you know, for its own interests, capital, money, some type of gain, monetary gain. You know, let me go back up a little bit because we could find why America is one of the top reasons America is dealing with Ukraine like that. You know, they got cheap gas and stuff like that. Let me find it. All right, here's the part right here. This is, like I said, it's all about monetary gains. This is the only reason America goes into these different countries to so-called help or set up our fight. It's for monetary purposes. He says the strategic is obvious. The Western media will doubtfully set the stage for a political war between peaceful Ukraine and aggressive Russia. You see, America is always poking the bear, which is Russia. You know, they want to make them seem like the bad guys, this and that. Make things a false narrative that may prove damaging enough to cancel Nord Stream 2, while also keeping military spending among NATO subjects at an all-time high. What the intrigue level reveals is Washington's likely willingness to risk the outbreak of major conflict, possibly even a world war, in order to maintain its economic and political heritage over European capitals. Man, this economic and political hindrance. That's what it's about. Like I said a second ago, even though they allowed Ukraine to have their own political players, if you wasn't down with the Western philosophy, then you know they would have some type of a coup d'état. Happens all the time. This is Revelation 12:12. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devils come down unto you having great wrath, because he knoweth that he have but a short time. And Esau is fighting Esau. You know, they wanted to set off this World War III, which is going to come, is prophesied about. And these things have to happen, man. The devil will go against the devil because he has but a short time, man. You know, and he's getting ready to try to come down on us even harder, man. That's why we're bringing out these videos. You know, we have to wait for the Lord to come back, because these times we're in, you know, the Lord made us watchtowers to be able to see these things. So we're judging all the things around the world, man. We're watching them and you know, and putting prophecies to them. You know, that's our job. But yeah, this devil has a short time. His words are smoother than butter right now. He's trying to come up with peace and stuff, and you got the people at ease right now with these different restrictions that they're lifting up off of the cities, so the people think that everything's gonna go back to normal. That's the name of the game. That's the joke back that he has you under. But I just wanted to bring that up real fast. I hope this was edifying. Shalom, Maki.